Are we live? I think we're live here, everybody. I think we have hit live and we are good to go. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle, the wrestling video podcast we run over here on youtube.com/UC Campbell /GodSaw, whatever you really want to call it at this point in time. I'm not even sure at this moment. I am really not even sure sometimes on what the // is at this moment in time. But that is not what we're really here about. First of all, I guess before we get into everything this week, because in the terms of wrestling news, there wasn't a lot of wrestling news. It's more of just shows. More shows of anything to really just go over this week. So just as a brief overview for the week that we had over here on the channel, we ended up not having that much, but I do have a few things in the pipeline. At least at this moment in time. I don't know what we're going to necessarily do with everything. I do have a few more episodes, well, not necessarily episodes, but a few more videos made for Dead or Alive 5 Last Round that have yet to go up. Those will be going up here within this next week. Matter of fact, probably after this one, I'll be setting them up to go live over the next couple of days and kind of schedule them to come out. I'll do a full weekend preview for that, but over the last week we had an interesting one, more just like minor annoyances really than anything if you really think about it. We had earlier in the week, because I had plans on doing a few things beforehand, but it ended up a few things got in the way. One thing that ended up getting in the way is that for about a day and a half, we lost like my entire area, not just like my place, but my entire area lost internet due to the fact that somebody, or I won't say somebody, but one of the cables got cut that gave internet to our entire area. So it took a couple of days for everything to get back up and running. So that kind of put a hamper on things that were going on. But that, like I said, minor annoyance, really. I mean, it was actually kind of nice to not have internet, like full internet for a couple of days to go along with it. Not gonna lie to you, not having like full access to like all your internet stuff isn't necessarily the worst thing to happen, with the exception of maybe businesses that, you know, run based off their internet connection and everything on that side. It's bad for them, but like for just general being at home, it was kind of nice that like the only thing I had that would have had internet and I wasn't using much of the data would be the phone. Would be literally the phone. That was pretty much all I had for that time. It was kind of nice. Kind of nice to be disconnected for a little bit. Just for a couple days. It wasn't too bad. It was not too bad in the end. But like I said, we will be definitely going over stuff in the weekend preview. I am going to probably bring that back. And hopefully we kind of stick to whatever's on there as well to go along with it. Like I said, wrestling news wise, there wasn't a lot of big stories that went out there wrestling wise. There was more just kind of getting to everything throughout the week, which, you know, was Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and last night, yes, I did decide to purchase ALLIN and watch it live as it was happening. And I'll talk about that one a little bit later on in the show here. Matter of fact, that's probably going to be the last thing I get to this week, is going to be ALLIN. And in all fairness and all honesty, I kind of want to save what I feel was probably the best for last. And like I said, it was it was actually a very enjoyable week of wrestling, honestly. I know I say that a lot, but I guess I play up more on the positive side of things a little bit here. But I found most of what I watched this week to be very enjoyable. And to albeit saying as well as outstanding in some of those cases as well. I thought we had some good wrestling this week. So let's like cut the news section. Like I said, not much happened. Like on the tabloid side of everything, which honestly is not a bad thing. I'll be fair with that one. That's not necessarily a bad thing. So let's just skip right into it. And like I said, I'm going to do All In at the end of the show here for that portion. For all I know, that could be... Honestly, we could probably do the entire episode around the All In pay-per-view last night. Or, I guess, what would you consider that? Would it be considered a pay-per-view? Or would it be considered something else due to the fact that it... I don't know. It started out as kind of like a groundswell to just, in the terms of talking about it kind of started out as a groundswell to just prove that somebody other than WWE could do a 10,000 seat arena and sell it out, which they did. But then it's like, oh, there was a lot of buzz around this one for people to watch it, so they ended up showing it live via Fight TV. And also the Honor Club people as well for the Ring of Honor subscribers as well. So they all got those on that one. And like I said, it was a great show. We'll talk about it in full a little bit later on, but I will go off and say it was a great show right off the bat, and I did thoroughly enjoy it. So. Like I said, we'll get into that one a little bit later on in the show, and we'll go right into it this week for Monday Night Raw, that aired on August the 27th, 2018, and you know, since SummerSlam, and it's crazy to really say that. Actually, the week before SummerSlam and the week after SummerSlam was some pretty good episodes of Monday Night Raw. And honestly, I did not think this Raw was all that bad either. I thought it was a rather enjoyable show. Overall, I thought it was an enjoyable one. We had some interesting we did have a few little interesting things here and there go down. The stuff at the end of the show with Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler and the Shield and everything was a fairly interesting one as well. Overall, I thought it was a decent show. It wasn't anything great. It wasn't anything really that bad either. And they're furthering other storylines that, yeah, people might not necessarily care about, but hey, you know, in the senses of outside of the bigger storylines that are going on, that they were furthering some other smaller ones as well, which is always nice to see that everything was kind of furthering along throughout the entire show with different little things, and you had little nuances to go along with it. So we'll go ahead and start this off basically right from the beginning. You had Roman Reigns come out. He basically calls out Braun Strowman saying, hey, if you want to cash in your Money in the Bank, let's just do it face to face and let's go with it. And go with it right then and there. So Strowman does come out. And again, like, Roman wants him to cash in the Money in the Bank. He wants him to even cash it in tonight. And I like the logic that Braun Strowman decides to use here. He said no, he wasn't going to cash in tonight because he knew the Shield could come out there and interfere and cost him the match and cost him his cash-in attempt as well. So lo and behold, the monster among men is actually using some logic, which is a little bit weird, but and honestly, he's played it smart with the Money in the Bank to go along with it. And by playing it smart, he does call his shot. He does do it the way that we haven't really seen people do it in a long time. So, as a matter of fact, I think we've only seen it really twice. Once with Rob Van Dam, when he cashed in for the against John Cena for the WWE title, and he did it for one night, ECW one night stand. And then John Cena cashing in a week before and telling CM Punk you have a week to get everything together because we're going to have a match for the title. So you did have all those, you did have those little scenarios, and then basically that's what we got here. Strowman decides that he's going to cash in his Money in the Bank contract. He calls his shot even, and he says he's going to do this inside Hell in a Cell. So we're going to get a Hell in a Cell match. Matter of fact, they announced both the Hell in a Cell match, or at least two Hell in a Cell matches this week. One's going to be Strowman versus Roman Reigns for the Universal title with Strowman cashing in his Money in the Bank contract. And the other one was announced on SmackDown, which I'll talk about then as well. So basically that is how it happened. And this is where the segment gets a little bit weird, because you don't necessarily know where things are going with this one. I think Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre did a decent enough job of trying to explain why they were out there. So Ziggler and McIntyre end up interrupting. And of course, the first thing he makes mention to is Seth Rollins. So, okay, Seth Rollins isn't even out there, yet he is complaining about Seth Rollins and saying that he stole the Intercontinental title. I like Roman's little comment saying, it's like, by stole, you mean you got curb stomped and pinned 1, 2, 3 cleanly in the ring. That's stealing now. Okay. I like some of the one-liners he's coming up. Some of the one-liners he's been throwing out there recently. They're a lot better than, well, a lot of the other one-liners he's been throwing out there at any point in time. So this does eventually lead to Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler's challenging both Strowman and Roman Reigns to a tag match. Okay, that's a little bit out there and everything on that side. And basically, I think Dolph and Drew, they do a decent job here. They explain it's like, hey, they're so focused on other things, but hey, we're the guys in front of you. We want you in a tag match tonight. So it's like, okay. And they end up setting it up or initially looking like they were going to set it up that way. This brings out Baron Corbin, and guess what? Baron Corbin's now going to be acting Raw General Manager, I think, or interim Raw General Manager. Was it acting? I don't know exactly what they were going with. They basically had Corey Graves correcting Coach the entire night about it too, so it was kind of funny, a little bit. Which he does end up making the tag team match, and he also says, yes, we're going to be doing he says he accepts the factor of Braun Strowman for Hell in a Cell will be going for the Universal title. So you do end up getting that match, but Corbin's not done. Like, this segment kind of went on and on and on and on to a certain degree. Like, it was decent, and I felt like it dragged on a little bit too long, and eventually Corbin also ends out, after making the tag match and confirming the Hell in a Cell match, he wasn't done. He ends up basically saying, it's like, oh yeah, and next, Finn Balor is going to face me in a one-on-one match, and it's next. And it's like, oh yeah, I could just and he played this off throughout the entire night. It's like, oh, I completely forgot to tell you this, this, and this type of thing. And he did this with Bobby Lashley a little bit later. So that's how he was kind of abusing his power, but also not in a way. It's like, oh, I have so much paperwork, I forgot to mention this and this to go along with it. Which they do end up having that match up next. Which they do, like I said, they do have that match up next. And it was, again, a normal fare between the two of them. And don't get me wrong, their matches have been pretty good. They're not bad matches by any stretch of the imagination. We've kind of seen them recently. Eventually, Corbin uses a chair to get disqualified, or what we thought was going to be a disqualification. But guess what? He forgot to inform everybody that it was a no DQ match. So match is restarted. He uses a chair, hits end of days, wins the match that way. The match wasn't bad. I thought it was pretty. I thought it was a decent enough match between the two of them. But we kind of seen it there before, and it's kind of the way of how is Baron Corbin going to abuse his power, and we kind of saw that throughout the night. Up next, you had a backstage segment with Apollo Crews. Originally, it was just Apollo Crews and Dana Brooke talking, and Apollo Crews was talking. It's like, you know, it seems like Titus O'Neil's trying to set up a match for you tonight. She hasn't had a singles match in quite some time. Everything on that side. Eventually, Titus O'Neil comes in and informs her, yes, I got you a singles match, and they're thinking that it's going to be against a local talent or anything like that. It's like, no, it's not going to be a local talent. It's going to be Sasha Banks. And I like what Apollo Crews did here. Apollo Crews is like, it's like, initially, like, Dana Brooke was kind of like, oh man, I'm going to get destroyed. It's like, no, I got this. And she walks off. And Apollo's like, really? You want to do this? I mean, she hasn't had a singles match in 9 months. which is kind of good that they brought something up like that. I liked how they brought up that, at least in continuity, to go along with it. That led to the match with Sasha Banks and Dana Brooke. This was a rather short match. Sasha with, you know, Dana Brooke getting some offense in and everything on that side, but eventually Sasha Banks hitting the Banks statement and picking up the victory, with Apollo Crews basically checking on Dana Brooke after the match. So they're kind of playing up that angle where are they kind of getting away from Titus O'Neil? Are they going to be getting away from Titus Worldwide? Everything on that side. I thought it was a decent way of going. Again, these are little storylines that they're not necessarily expecting too many people to care about, but it's little nuances like that that I do like, that they're at least continuing on with the stories as they are. At least for the time being. Obviously, they didn't really do anything. They're still playing this weird thing. Is like they have tag teams in the women's division, but they don't have tag titles yet. I think they're still waiting to bring those tag team titles in, which is why I think they do have Sasha and Bayley together, at least at this point in time, is because of those tag titles eventually coming in to go along with it. So it should be an interesting one to see. If they didn't really continue anything on that side, so we didn't really see anything on that one. But they are furthering this whole Titus Worldwide maybe splitting up thing as well. So not bad stuff. Not bad stuff to go along with. Eventually, after this one, you did have a Dean Ambrose backstage segment where he was backstage kind of just like doing his thing. Seth Rollins had talked to him earlier and he had left, so it was just him on his own at that point. And this brought up Jinder Mahal. And Jinder Mahal was doing his whole thing was like, I can tell there's some like built up anger and he wants to help him with that built up anger and everything, doing his Shanti. That Shanti thing he continually does. The breathing exercises and everything on that one. Eventually, and this is kind of the new nuance of Dean Ambrose. He's not necessarily towards the wacky and funny. He seems a little bit off. And by off, I mean like he seems a little bit more violent. He feels a little bit more violent. He doesn't necessarily want to be goofy. He doesn't necessarily want to be funny. And he basically says like, what he was going to do to Jinder Mahal if he didn't get out of his face. And eventually Jinder leaves, and he kind of leaves with that angry smile, like, and just goes, Shanti, walks away and backs off out of the camera. Again, like little nuances like this I kind of like, and I'll even talk about that in the All-In review as well, about little nuances, because they did something in one of the matches I thought was great, at least in terms of commentary, which is kind of weird to always say. Up next, though, we had Seth Rollins coming out, and basically he brought back his open challenge for the Intercontinental title. It is going to be answered by Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens comes out and cuts a very good promo. I like how he basically was like, you know what? I could not think of a better place other than, and he was about to say Toronto, but it's like, no, I know one place that would be better. It would be Montreal, Quebec, and it got places booing. He kind of did a little thing with Toronto and everything on that side. I like what they did here on the promo. The match with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens, this was a great match. It was Kevin Owens working the shoulder pretty much most of the time throughout the match, and I thought it came off really good. I really did. I thought this one came off as, it was just a great match. They did good spots, but they were also telling themselves a story throughout the entire time of Seth Rollins having to overcome the shoulder injury, but Kevin Owens also, like in every desperate attempt and trying to end like what this bad summer has been for him, in trying to get back the Intercontinental title, but Seth Rollins having to come over the shoulder to keep the Intercontinental title, which he does eventually do. He eventually hits a curb stomp to pick up the victory. And what was a great match. Again, this is one of those matches, it's like, go out of your way to watch this one. This was good. This was definitely good. Yeah, not anything, there's nothing really bad I can say about this match. It was good. It was just a damn good match. Up next, before we do go back to the ringside area, you have Strowman backstage with Baron Corbin, and he hands him the Money in the Bank contract, and he leaves these little words. He does leave these words here, which makes it interesting to think for Hell in a Cell. It's like, you better bring the contract to Hell in a Cell. So does it leave this whole aspect of what does that mean? Does Baron Corbin end up losing the contract somewhere? Does he? Or does he do something else with it? What do they have planned for that to go along down the line? But those words kind of resonated there on that one. So it'll be interesting to see if that actually comes up to be anything, or if it ends up being nothing in the end. It'll be interesting to see. Up next, we go back to the ring, and guess who's still in the ring? It's Kevin Owens. He's just sitting in the ring with a chair, has a microphone in his hands, and eventually says, "I quit." Drops the microphone, walks out. So now Kevin Owens has quit, which we do get a nice little nuance a little bit later on in the show. With Baron Corbin on the phone with Stephanie, is like, one of the things he makes mention to, he's going to do everything that he can to make sure Kevin Owens comes back, which I like those little nuances there. So it's interesting to see where they'll go with that one and everything on that side. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays off. Up next, you had Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre cutting a promo basically on their match with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman later in the night. Decent enough promo. Nothing much to really talk about on that one. Just setting up more for the match a little bit later. You had the B team going up against the Revival in what I thought was a good match. This was a good tag match. The tag titles were not on the line in this one, but the Revival and the B team looking good inside of this match. The Revival picks up the victory over the B team after what we thought was going to be another like fluky victory for the B team, but the Revival was able to beat that out and pick up the victory with the Shatter Machine, and what was a good match. And it's also leaving me basically like, can these two guys have those tag titles, please? I think they would do some good work with the tag titles. I don't, especially with the way that they kind of work with their tag team style. I think it would come off really good on their end. They play the heel role very well. They play almost classic wrestling, tag team wrestling very well to go along with it. Kind of just reminds you of a throwback to those days, and I think it's actually really good. They're really good in the ring, and they're really good at telling the story in the match. So I kind of wish they would get the tag team titles after somewhere down the line. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but you would imagine we're going to get another tag team title match between the B team and between the Revival here very soon. The Revival do cut a promo. I like how they play it off as they feel that the B team is an embarrassment to the tag team division, that they're ruining these tag team titles, which if you take a look at the Raw tag team division, it is. It's kind of in a bad place. You got a lot of teams that you would consider jobbers. I mean, the B team or the tag team champions, they have been jobbers for the longest period of time. There's Heath Slater and Rhino. There's the Ascension. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. And then you also have Titus Worldwide. And now I'm thinking about it, are there any other tag teams at that point? At this point in time, I don't think there are any other tag teams. So the Raw tag team division's not in a good place right now, and it would be nice to see the Revival picking up those tag team titles. Oh yeah, that's right, the Authors of Pain, but who knows where they're at? Who knows where they're at right now? In all seriousness. So after this, we have Elias in the ring. He does his normal shtick. He runs down Toronto. I like how he makes mention that the Maple Leafs aren't going to be picking up the Stanley Cup Championship anytime soon. I think he makes a mention to the musician Drake in there as well, about in another way of trying to run down the town. With words that he had quote unquote said to Elias. On that one. Eventually, this brings out Trish Stratus. And again, this is one of those segments, it felt forced. I'm not going to lie on that one. It did feel a little bit forced, but it was good and entertaining. and it was just a fun way of going. I thought it was a really good way of going. Of course, Trish is out there to defend Toronto. She runs down Elias a lot, and then also makes mention of facing Alexa Bliss at Evolution, which brings Elias to say not so flattering things you thought that they wouldn't say here, but he comes off like, I guess they kind of portray his character to come off a little bit chauvinist to go along with it, which honestly, for a heel character, that's exactly what he would be. He makes mention to what Trish had done in the past, like doing swimsuit contest and thinking that's what her match with Alexa is gonna be. Of course, Trish puts him down for that side, and he makes mention, it's like, I know why he says, I know why you're out here. You want to walk with Elias, but you know what? I don't date 60-year-olds. And I was like, oh my god. It was one of those little bits. It was one of those little bits, and rightfully so. Trish slaps him, which has Elias go packing, and then lo and behold, Ronda Rousey comes out. Like I said, this is a little bit forced, and it was really weird where they went with this, with everything, because right after this as well, it was going to be Natalya and Alexa Bliss. So Ronda comes out to be in and Trish and Natalya's corner. And then Alexa Bliss comes out with Alicia Fox. And then she cuts a promo on Trish. It's like you have Elias cut a promo on Trish, and Trish cut a promo on Elias. And then Alexa comes out and cuts a promo on Trish. And then they bring back out Mickie James as well. And she also and Alexa also announces that she's going to have a rematch at Hell in a Cell. So we're going to get that. Mickie James comes back on this one as well. I thought that was it was nice to see Mickie James back on that side of everything. The match itself between the two of them, between Natalya and Alicia Fox, was rather short again. Natalya picking up the victory rather easily with a sharpshooter. Decent enough match. Obviously, Mickie James and Alexa go running. Afterwards, they don't want to stick around and potentially get beaten down or anything on that side, so we had that. Up next after this, you had the Bellas backstage with Trish, Natalya, and Ronda, and they make mention to themselves having a match next week, which is correct. The Bella Twins are going to have a match next week against the Riot Squad. So I guess they're bringing them back in. They're starting to bring everybody back in with that pay-per-view coming up here in just over a month now. So it's a bit over a month. So I guess that does. I guess that means they do have to start bringing some of those people in to at least create stories going into that pay-per-view. At least you would hope they would build stories going into that pay-per-view. It wouldn't be. Hopefully the Evolution pay-per-view is not going to be one that's like just the old guard versus new guard. They like build real stories going into it. I would like to see them build some real stories going into it. And I think it would be really good on that side. And hopefully it's not like kind of like a nostalgia trip on that one. That's what I'm kind of hoping it would end up being. But we'll see how they play off with everything. Backstage with Baron Corbin again. And he is with Lashley. And basically says, like, you know what? You have a match. And it's next. But I forget who it's against. It's like with all the paperwork around and everything. I forgot who it was going to be. But you got a match and it's next. Good luck. And it's like, and of course Bobby Lashley's like, okay. And he kind of gives that chuckle. It's like, oh, that's great. You gave me a match, everything on that side. And then he's like, slaps him, is like, just walks. Does the ha-ha type bit. Which ends out being the Ascension. So, and not just one member of the Ascension, both members of the Ascension. Yeah, Baron Corbin does get on the Titantron with Bobby Lashley out there, and he says, or basically says, like, it's not one guy that I have against you, I've got two against you, and the Ascension come out. Again, kind of demoralizing their demoralizing their tag team division, because Bobby Lashley won this match rather easily with a Dominator in the end. Or his version of the Dominator. It's not a true Dominator, but his version, I think what they do call the Dominator. Up next after this, again, another short match. It was Jinder Mahal versus Dean Ambrose. Ambrose goes over and rather easily here. Again, we had like 3 really short matches here. You had Natalya and Alicia Fox was extremely short. Bobby Lashley and the Ascension was extremely short. And Dean Ambrose and Jinder Mahal was also, I thought was a decent match, and Jinder Mahal did get some decent offense in, but was still rather on the short side of everything. So we had 3 matches like that. Dean Ambrose picks up the victory with Dirty Deeds. Like I said, decent enough match, but rather short still. So this leads us to the main event of the night, which is Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler. And this was an alright match. It was an extended beatdown, really. That's pretty much the way they really go with everything. Roman Reigns doesn't tag in Braun Strowman at all throughout the time. He tries, but he keeps getting stopped. It's like the building up the heat for the hot tag and everything throughout the entire match. So Roman's continually being beaten down, having to fight back. He doesn't get the tag, then fights back some more, doesn't get the tag, fights back some more. He eventually gets the hot tag to Braun Strowman, which Strowman does nothing. He gets the hot tag after all this, and just stands there, does nothing. And eventually, Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre continue to beat down Roman some more. The match eventually gets thrown out, and then Strowman gets in the ring, and Drew and Dolph end up beating down Roman Reigns even more. I think, yeah, Strowman does hit a running power slam to him, which eventually brings out Dean Ambrose. He gets beaten down. Brings out Seth Rollins. He gets beaten down. Everybody gets power slams and hitting the finishers from Drew and from Dolph Ziggler as well. And they go off the air with with all 3 members of the Shield down, and Braun Strowman raising the hands of Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. And what was a weird, I'll say it was a weird type of way of going. Of everything. I think it was definitely a weird one in the end, because guess what? Braun Strowman's teaming up with Drew and Dolph. That's kind of how they played it off with. That's how they kind of played it off there, and it doesn't make Strowman look weak, but it is uncharacteristic of Strowman on that side. I don't even necessarily know if it is kind of saying is like, yes, he became a heel, but did he become a heel? I don't know. We'll have to see what they do with Raw this week and everything. We still do have 2 more Monday Night Raws before the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, so they will be going with that. Also, throughout the night, I failed to mention it, they did show more video packages of Triple H versus The Undertaker. They had a bunch of superstars from like a bunch of the past superstars, such as Austin, Michaels, tons of other ones, Foley in there, giving their comments on this match in Australia as well. And they also announced that next week Shawn Michaels was going to be on the show as well to go along with it. So that was another little snippet of that show as well. So that was basically it for Monday Night Raw. It was kind of all over the place. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. But yeah, it was kind of all over the place. So let's head into SmackDown for August the 28th, 2018. And this was good. This was a good show. I do enjoy these shows. I do enjoy where they've been going with SmackDown as of late, especially after the WrestleMania time. It's been a rather enjoyable show. And again, they did have another rather enjoyable show here. First up was New Day coming out to do their celebration on winning their tag team titles for the 5 times Yes, they were playing off of that, and you kind of knew where this was going. But lo and behold, guess which version of Booker T came out? It wasn't normal Booker T, it was King Booker. This is good. This is good, and this is like, this segment didn't further any storylines, but it was fun. It was fun, and it was exactly what it needed to be. I like the whole aspect of him giving like all these title, like the you had Xavier the Wise, Kofi the Brave, and then he was like, and everybody kind of laughs when he pauses, and Big E, and like, and that gets Big E going crazy. They have the like the New Day were down on one knee to bow to their liege, and eventually a Big E goes off on him, and it's like, I think the comment was just like, King, it's like, my liege, you've gone full Saxton on us. It's like, what? What does... Oh man, it was just a fun segment. It was very enjoyable. Again, it didn't further any storylines, anything on that side, but it was what it was. It was entertaining and fun, and that's what it needs to be. Up next, and you had New Day for commentary on this one as well, you had The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro, going up against the Colognes, going up against the Club, Gallows and Anderson, and you had Primo and Epico back, finally, I guess, on that one. It's one of those bits, is like, are they still with them? And apparently they are. They are still with the company, and they were in this match for and it was a triple threat match. And apparently there's going to be 2 triple threat matches for a shot at the tag team titles. So the 2 winners will face each other, which we found out some of those people for the next week as well. But this match with this triple threat, I thought it was a good match. And they did do the exact same thing they had done from a few weeks back, where they flipped between normal commentary and New Day doing their version of commentary, which I ended up liking. I thought that was good. The in-ring action I thought was really good as well. Eventually, with it looking like the Club, or Primo and Epico were going to go over in the match by beating Doc Gallows on that one. But the Bar pulls out them, takes them both out, and ends up picking up the victory, and they're going to advance to a shot for the tag team titles. So this was also right afterwards as well. We found out that Rusev Day was going to be in the next triple threat match next week for that tag team title shot. And I liked how they played this off. It's like, originally Rusev thought it was Lana who got them the tag team title shot. For him and Aiden English, but it was actually Aiden English that did it. It looks like they're friendly again. How are they going? It's like, how are they going to make this get turned into something bad? We're just waiting on that one. Hopefully it won't be for next week, but overall, thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good one. So up next, it was Jeff Hardy coming out, and he basically calls out Randy Orton, says he's not done with him yet, but also Orton, who does come out, says he's not done with him yet. It was like he was glad that this new version of Jeff Hardy had come out from what he had done last week. And this is the Jeff Hardy he wants to take away from the fans. Jeff Hardy eventually does interrupt him as he was saying, it's like, you have to call me by the three most destructive letters in the WWE, and that was RK. And then Jeff Hardy goes, he just yells it out. He's like, no! Not in that type of voice, but he does say no. And Jeff Hardy challenges Randy Orton to Hell in the Cell. Not to the pay-per-view, to the actual Hell in the Cell match. So as soon as he challenges him to a Hell in a Cell match, it's like, Jeff, just be safe. Please be safe. It's him, and it's almost like that with Shane. You see something high, and you see Shane McMahon, and you almost expect him to go off of it. And you kind of expect that with Jeff Hardy here, so I'm hoping Jeff just be safe in that match. If that is going to be in the Hell in a Cell or anything on that one, so please be safe. Otherwise it should be a good match on that one. So it should be interesting to note that that is the match on SmackDown that's going to be in Hell in a Cell, not the Samoa Joe and AJ Styles match, which honestly warrants being in Hell in a Cell. It really does. Those match that match does warrant being in Hell in a Cell, but we're going to get Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton inside Hell in a Cell, which, don't get me wrong, that feud also warrants being in there. And you could probably say on SmackDown you have 3 feuds that really warrant being in Hell in a Cell, which would be the way that they've pulled off Becky Lynch and Charlotte for the time being. That would warrant being in Hell in a Cell. AJ Styles and Samoa Joe would warrant being in Hell in a Cell. And so would Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton. So at least it makes sense. Up next, you had Carmela with an interview on her match with Charlotte later on in the night, which, you know, she did the whole bit, you know, Mela is money. I've beaten Charlotte Flair twice. Everything on that side. She goes off, and of course, RTruth and Ty Dillinger come in, and RTruth is still trying to find Carmela, and he's still not getting the whole aspect that's like, you don't get a shot at the US title from beating Carmela. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it at all. And of course, Ty ends it with, "This is my life now." Okay. Yeah, it is. That is your life now. RTruth is great. I'm not gonna lie. RTruth is great. I like his comedic timing. This portion of it's getting a little bit old, so hopefully they move on to something else here very soon. But he's really good at what he does, and he's very entertaining. I like what they're doing with RTruth for the time being. At this point in his career, since he's in the later stages of his career, it's definitely a proper thing if you really just want to go with the comedy route on it. And I do enjoy it. I think it's really good. Up next, you have Naomi going up against Billie Kay, basically in another match from last week that was kind of a semi-return. Naomi fought Peyton Royce, ended out losing because Billie Kay got involved. This week, Billie Kay ends out winning because Peyton Royce gets involved in the match. Decent, again, it was an okay match. It was a rather quick match as well, but I thought it came off decent enough on that side of everything, and it was okay. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything special, but it wasn't anything bad either, so is what it is. Up next, you had Brie Bella and Daniel Bryan coming out. They cut a promo on Miz and Maurice inside of the ring. You know, with, you know, saying like Brie came back because she wanted Maurice, and, you know, the normal stuff with Miz and Daniel Bryan to go along with it. The promo itself was pretty decent, and they got behind both of them on this one, but they get interrupted by Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega, and Zelina Vega cuts a pretty good promo on Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella here, even making mention is like, it's great for her to stand in the ring with 2 legends such as Brie Bella and Andrade Cien Almas, just skipping over Daniel Bryan. I thought it was good. It was a good way of going. This does eventually lead to Andrade challenging Daniel Bryan, and I like what they did here. This is a fun way of playing it off as well for like GM role and everything on that side, because they play it up with a little bit of kayfabe, because technically Paige should be in her office and she has to make her way around the arena to get out there to make a match. And he basically says, it's like, as GM, I would come out here and make matches and everything on the one, kind of just teasing. It's like, is there someone in the back who could make this match happen? And he's like, well, that's kind of embarrassing because Paige doesn't originally come out. And then eventually she does. And I like how she played it off that she was a little bit out of breath because she had to run from her office to the stage to make the match. I liked how they played that off. I thought that was really good. Now for the match with Andrade Cien Almas and Daniel Bryan, I thought this was really good. For everything that they were doing before, the whole thing with Miz coming out there and Maurice coming out there and causing the disqualification, This was extremely good, very entertaining, very enjoyable. The two of them working together, I thought was great. It really was. Good back and forth between the two of them. Again, another match to really go out of your way to kind of watch, I would say. Another match this week for you to go out of your way and watch. Eventually, The Miz does come down. He causes the initial distraction. The match eventually ends in disqualification when Maurice now shows up after Daniel Bryan had gotten rid of The Miz for a period of time. Maurice shows up, and she attacks Brie Bella. And then Miz comes up from behind when Daniel Bryan is distracted and beats down Daniel Bryan. This leads to all four of them leaving the beatdown to Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella, with Zelina Vega doing the double knees in the corner to Brie. And then, as they had held down Daniel Bryan and forced him to watch Brie eat the DDT from Maurice, and then eventually leading to the skull, also Daniel Bryan eating a hammerlock DDT and the skull crushing finale for both of them to be left lying. Pretty good segment. I thought it was a pretty good segment. Up next was Charlotte conducting an interview, and basically her interview was everything on Becky Lynch and her match for later with Carmela. And she even makes the whole point of, it's like, what did Becky expect me to do? Lay down for her in that match? It's like, no, she's a competitor. She's not going to apologize for being a competitor type thing. Good interview. I thought it was a good interview. It kind of plays off this whole aspect that both Becky Lynch and Charlotte have good points. It's just, who do you end up liking more? That's kind of where they're going with this one. At least that's how I feel like they're going with it now. They're kind of backtracking a little bit on what Becky Lynch did with the mocking, not necessarily mocking of the fans, but kind of blaming the fans a little bit from last week. And they're just going with it's like, both have good points. Who do you like more? There you go. That's all it really needs to be, I guess, in this one. Yeah, in all fairness, that's all it really needs to be. Let's be 100% clear on that. That's all that one needs to be on that side. But sorry. But yeah, Charlotte's interview I thought was pretty good. It was a pretty good interview for the match later in the night, and basically continually setting up her and Becky Lynch for later down the road. Up next, you had AJ Styles come out to cut a promo on Samoa Joe and why he continually goes for this, for these mind games, everything that he's been doing. He calls out Samoa Joe, but Samoa Joe, of course, is in the parking lot area. He's not going to come out there. He continues playing mind games with AJ, and he calls his wife, or I guess that's how they play it off. He calls his wife, Wendy, says it's like, and doing the normal things that he says, like, you know, I'm going to send daddy home, everything on that side. And of course he does other things to kind of tease AJ into going out there and kind of, you know, getting off his game even more. Makes mention to like a school barbecue, everything on that side of it. I thought this was some good stuff. This is some good stuff. I like the way that they're going. And again, like I said, the match between AJ Styles and Samoa Joe should be in the Hell in a Cell as well. Like, they could warrant that. They do have a backstage segment with AJ Styles before the main event where he ran backstage to try to find Samoa Joe, but he fails. Someone comes up behind him to look like he was going to maybe even he was going to tell him something, taps him on the shoulder, and AJ kind of freaks him out because he's such on guard that he was going to attack at any given point, but he holds off. That'll go along with it. Again, I like where they're going with this one. It's a pretty good way of going. Up next is the main event of the night, which is Charlotte Flair going up against Carmela for the SmackDown Women's title, and this was a very, very good match between the two of them. They gave it some decent amount of time as well to go along with everything. Like I said, it was just a really good match, good back and forth. Honestly, Carmella's getting a lot better in the ring. Not gonna lie, Carmella's getting a lot better in the ring. And I like the match that she worked here with Charlotte. I thought this was really good. Really good way of going. Looked like they did do a little bit of a tease of maybe Carmella picking the title back up. Hits a couple of super kicks but to only get a 2 count. Eventually, Charlotte ends out picking up the victory with natural selection and then going into the figure 8. And as she was celebrating for the celebrating with the SmackDown Women's title, she gets attacked by Becky Lynch, who leaves her lying, beats her down, and picks up the title and cuts a promo, basically challenging Charlotte to a match at Hell in a Cell, and said, "You know what? When I meet you at Hell in a Cell, I'm taking back my title," and then just drops the "you bitch" to go along with it. I don't. It leaves it up there, though they're going to probably actually go somewhere with this storyline. But I still think the bit that they did with Bayley and Sasha, with the Bayley dropping the "you ain't shit" on there, was actually kind of good. Was probably better than this one, but that one's not going anywhere with that. This one's actually going somewhere. So I think by default, Becky dropping the "you bitch" on Charlotte will end up being a lot better in the end. Because they're actually going somewhere with it. And more than likely, we will be getting that match at Hell in a Cell. And again, another match that would warrant being in the Hell in a Cell. At least I think it would. It definitely warrants it being in Hell in a Cell. That'll go along with it. So SmackDown, I thought, was a pretty good show this week. Again, not gonna lie, I liked a lot of the wrestling I watched this week. I thought it was really a pretty good week. So let's bring this to NXT for August the 29th, 2018. And again, this was a good show. I enjoyed this show. You got a couple good matches there, and they're continuing on with some storylines. So the main storyline of the night is that William Regal started the investigation on who attacked Aleister Black. He starts with Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano comes out. He's on a crutch. And the fans are chanting Johnny Wrestling and everything on that one. I like how he says, "I don't deserve that," because it's like, I thought I could fix everything, but I couldn't, because I became what I hated, which was Tommaso Ciampa at TakeOver. Essentially what he said. Not the exact words. But he can't get Tommaso Ciampa out of his head. And of course, this does bring out William Regal. And he does ask... and basically asks him, is like, "Are you the one who attacked Aleister Black?" Because Aleister Black's going to be coming back here on a house of fire and basically burning this place down here real soon to find out who attacked him. And of course, before he fully gets an answer from Johnny Gargano, he gets interrupted by Velveteen Dream. And Velveteen Dream is getting sick and tired of like everything being about Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Gargano, everything on that side, and it should be about him. And basically calls him Johnny Failure. And the crowd actually starts chanting it a little bit, Johnny Failure, to go along with that side. Eventually, Johnny Gargano does say, it's like, this crutch is only there to keep the pressure off of his knee, but he's good to go. So he chucks the crutch at him, but before anything really does get started, he basically said, William Regal basically stops him. Is like, "Velveteen Dream, my office. Johnny Gargano, to the back. If you two want to have a fight, you can have it next week." And then that's where they end up going with everything on that one. Up next, you actually no, Velveteen Dream wasn't in Regal's office next. Actually, the next match was Dakota Kai going up against Aaliyah, and I thought this was a good match. Aaliyah's gotten pretty good in the ring. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to use her in any kind of character or anything on that side, because they have pretty much used her as a jobber to the stars for the time being. So it will be interesting to see if they actually do use her in any other sort of role other than that. But she's actually gotten pretty good in the ring. Let's see if they actually do something with a character for her as well. Like I said, I thought this was a good match. That finisher that Dakota Kai has, the code red into like the backstabber, is really good. That's a really good move. And we'll see how long they really go with that one. Dakota Kai goes over in this match. Like I said, that finisher is really good. And I thought they had a good match here. I really did. Aaliyah working over Dakota Kai throughout the match, but eventually Dakota fighting back and getting the victory as well. So, like I said, I thought it was good. Up next, you have Velveteen Dream. He gets questioned by William Regal, or we got to see the ending. And, of course, they were playing everything off as like William Regal has somebody in his office is like transcribing everything, and everything is being recorded. Up next you had, I think they're going to call them the Forgotten Sons. I know Gunner from Impact Wrestling, I forget what they're going to call them, is in there. Wesley Blake's in there as well, and I forget who the other guy is. I forget who the other guy is, and it was basically another thing for them to kind of try to further along the whole investigation angle, but also to give them an opportunity of finally being on TV, and apparently they're going to have a match next week. So, decent enough segment there. Up next, they were hyping Raul Mendoza going up against EC3. It wasn't that I blanked on who it was actually blanking on how to say Raul's name on that one. But they cut to EC3 backstage. He had been attacked, and Lars Sullivan is leaving, which he eventually does come out. And we'll talk about that one in a little bit. But before we got to that, you had Nikki Cross being questioned. And William Regal's trying to get answers from her because she saw who did it. Or at least according to everything, she saw who was the attacker. And she's playing this whole thing of, I know who it is. I know who it is. But she's doing the whole crazy bit to go along with it. And she's doing it so well. Oh my God. Watch this segment. If you can find it anywhere, watch what they do here. Like, she gets on the phone, it's like she pretends she's talking with somebody. It's like, yeah, I know who did it. I have a secret. I'm keeping my secret, and everything to go along with it. And then Bianca Belair comes in. She's wanting a title shot against Kairi Sane at some point, but she's also trying to talk to Nikki Cross. Is like, Nikki, get it together. This is good stuff. Like I said, this is one of those, find the segment. That was great. As the Batman is joining in the chat here, into our chat. We're pretty far into this one. We are to NXT, and we're not at the end, by the way. We're not even at the end. So we are in NXT at this time, though. But after this, like I said, the Nikki Cross segment was great. Nikki Cross, William Regal, the dude that's sitting next to William Regal, and Bianca Belair. Good stuff. Very entertaining. Up next, you have Raul Mendoza. I'm butchering those lines again. Raul Mendoza comes out. He was going to have his match with EC3, but Lars Sullivan comes out, and basically he kind of so he admits to beating down EC3, but he also makes mention to, unlike the Aleister Black situation, I'm going to admit to what I've done. So does that get rid of Lars Sullivan as the attacker? Though he does have motive to attack Aleister Black for breaking his jaw at NXT TakeOver. But he basically admits to attacking EC3, but also kind of lays out there that he was not the attacker of Aleister Black, and Lars Sullivan ends out destroying Raul Mendoza to go along with it, leaving him lying after hitting his finisher a couple of times. Again, good stuff. Decent enough stuff. Up next, you had Tommaso Ciampa cutting a promo on winning against Johnny Gargano, and basically saying that NXT is his home and he owns this. He's the main event. Everything on. Look, Tommaso Ciampa is great. He's just great at what he does, and he comes off in such a way that you can tell he has zero redeeming qualities which is why when he comes out, he has the Course of Booze as his theme music for the time being. It's really well done and very enjoyable with everything. I thought it was great. Up next, you had Keith Lee going up against Luke Menzies. Menzies, I think is how it's pronounced. This was pretty much a squash match. Keith Lee looking really good in this match. And I like the cocky attitude he has to everything. Like, he's playing it off a little bit face on the face side of being on the cocky side, because he's always having... He wants everybody to bask in his glory. Like, I feel like this is going to be a heel somewhere down the line, but the way that he comes off and just that smile on his face, it's like, how can you not like this guy? Keith Lee is really good. Out of the stuff that I've seen from him now, he's really, really good. And, and they play it off, for him being very athletic, even for his size, everything on that. But he pulls out a hurricanrana in this match, a very, very good looking powerbomb, like Luke Menzies literally bounces off the mat on Keith Lee's sit out powerbomb. Really good really good squash match, basically. Good way of showing off Keith Lee in this match. So this brings us to the main event of the night, which was the Undisputed Era. It was going to be Roderick Strong and Adam Cole going up against Ricochet and Pete Dunne in what was just a really good match. A really, really good tag team match. Great back and forth on all sides. In the terms of like the details, it's kind of always hard to say, because they just, you kind of know their moves to go along with it. And it was just well played out on all sides. They even played it up as like, oh, it was going to be Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly, but it ends up being Adam Cole, so it almost throws off the game plan a little bit. And it does go awry for Ricochet and Pete Dunne. At the end, when Ricochet was going to go for a flying attack to the outside to the Undisputed Era, they pull Pete Dunne in the way. He hits Pete Dunne, and eventually it allows for them to pick up the pinfall on Pete Dunne and pick up the victory. And like I said, what was a really good match. After the match, they do continue the beat down on Pete, not on Pete Dunne, but on Ricochet, which eventually brings the War Raiders out to basically chase away, basically chase away the Undisputed Era and basically end the show. So it seems like we're going somewhere with this, whether it is going to lead to a tag team title match for the War Raiders. Sorry. Whether it leads to a tag team title match for the War Raiders, or is it going to lead to another War Games match with Undisputed Era being in there, teaming up against what I would think would be Pete Dunne and British Strong Style, and then it would be Ricochet and the War Raiders. And that would be an interesting way to see where they would go with that, and if that would be the case going into the that particular NXT takeover as well, which is going to be War Games. So you would imagine if they're going to call it War Games again, they're going to have a War Games match. So we'll see how that one ends up playing out on that side of everything. So again, WWE side, I thought they had some good shows. I did. But we're going to talk about now what we're going to talk about, and this is going to be the part of this week where we go into full-on review mode for everything. And we are going to, so this was kind of late. I didn't get to see the pre-show. I didn't get to see the 2 pre-show matches, though I heard those were pretty good as well. But I did decide to watch All In. So All In Chicago, run by Cody and the Young Bucks. And I decided to go ahead and watch it. I wanted to. It was kind of a late. It was kind of a late decision because I had just gotten home from work, and it was about like, it was just like a few minutes. When I got home, it was like literally a few minutes before it was going on the air. So the pre-show had already happened, And let's just say overall, this was a really, 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 really good show. This was a great show, by all stretches of the imagination. I had a few little hiccups about the show, and this is me nitpicking. One is not even the fault of the show itself. That was basically the place that was running the show, in the terms of the place that you would have to order it for pay-per-view over on Fight TV right at the beginning. And I would imagine this is also because of the factors. That's why I'm also kind of getting this out of the way really quick right at the beginning, because the rest of it is just, this was all good stuff to go along with everything. I had some issues right off the beginning where I didn't get the first like 6 or 7 minutes of All-In due to, I guess, either server overload or something that went awry with the Fight TV network on that one. So that was a little bit of a downturn to everything. It was right at the beginning, but like I said, it was only for about 6 or 7 minutes, so I only missed like the first portion of the first match, which was Matt Cross versus MJF, which was honestly a good match and a good opener. But I didn't know either one of the guys at all. Like, these are the first time I'm seeing either one of these guys. But that was the little snafu at the beginning. The other snafu I'll talk about a little bit later. And that was more of just a timing issue. But otherwise, there's nothing really bad to say about this show. And to anybody who says this was a poor show, they're wrong. Because it was a really good show. Matt Cross versus MJF. Like I said, these two guys I've never seen before. MJF had a pendulum pile driver. So basically, think of Randy Orton's DDT, but done in pile driver form. That was sick looking. Matt Cross does pick up the victory in this one. Like I said, I don't know too much about them, so I was going to probably get through this one really quick on that side, unfortunately, with everything. But honestly, I thought it was a good match. It was a good opener and a good way of starting the show with that particular one. So this leads to our second match of the night, and this one I thought was fan-flippin-tastic. For considering the people, considering one of the people in it, one person in it. It was Stephen Amell, yes, the guy from Arrow, going up against Christopher Daniels. And this, yes, it looked a little sloppy from time to time, but, geez, this was just great. Like, the way that they pulled off everything was just great in this match, and there's nothing really wrong with this particular match to me. Yes, it was a little sloppy. Yes, it was a little uncoordinated, but I guess on that sense, you got to give it a little bit of slack because Stephen Amell is a full-on actor. He's not a trained professional wrestler in any way. And yes, I know wrestlers are kind of actors that go along with it, but there's a lot of training that goes along to that as well. But the two of them had a lot. Like, they did a lot. This was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought this was going to be like a heavy interference style match, everything on that side. It kind of turned to a semi-hardcore match. It wasn't an overly hardcore match. There was one table spot in this one, which ended out just, it was great, the way that they set it up as well. It looked like Christopher Daniels was going to suplex Amell through the table, but Amell counters it, which eventually has Daniels landing on the table back first, and then he tries to deliver a Macho Man style elbow through the table to Christopher Daniels, but Daniels moves out of the way, which allows him to pick up the victory in the end. This was good. Just like, I was impressed by Stephen Amell. I was impressed by Stephen Amell, what he did back at SummerSlam a few years back when it was him and Neville going up against Stardust and Wade Barrett. He's really good at what he does. And it was an enjoyable match, and props to Stephen Amell for going as far as he did. For going as far as he did in this match. He didn't necessarily have to do exactly the stuff that he was doing inside of there, but he did, and he did it really, really well. He did do it really, really well. So, this leads us to the Fatal 4-Way match, which was Tessa Blanchard versus Chelsea Green versus Britt Baker versus Madison Rayne, and whew, this was a very good Fatal 4-Way between all four of them here. Tessa Blanchard did have her father out there, and Magnum TA was out there as well. So you kind of got an idea who was winning this match. Right off the bat. I like how Chelsea Green is playing up. One side is like her character, because I haven't seen too much of her stuff outside of Impact when she was Laurel Van Ness. She's still playing a little bit of the Laurel Van Ness stuff, but it's like half her body is Laurel Van Ness side. It's crazy. It's the crazy side. And the other half is like a bubbly, happy type character to go along with it. And they even do it with the ring gear as well. It's like one half is one set of a color, the other half is another set of a color. It's really good. I actually like that. I thought that was pretty good. Britt Baker, I will be honest, I've never seen before. I've never actually seen any of her matches before, but she did come out to Adam Cole's old music because she is dating Adam Cole on that one. So it was kind of a nice little nod to the old variation with Adam Cole on that one. And then Madison Rayne, well, if you've at least seen Impact Wrestling, you know of what Madison Rayne's done. Overall, this match was really good. Good back and forth on all sides. Good teases of victories and finishes, only to get broken up in the end. And yes, Tessa Blanchard actually is the new Knockouts champion. It happened earlier this week. I didn't watch Impact this week, though. I do know of that match that she had with it was Allie and Su Yung. I at least knew it was going on this week, and I know Tessa ended up winning. I've yet to see the match. I've yet to watch Impact. There was just a lot to watch this week. So Impact was kind of, we're not going to be watching this one on that side of everything. But, which was also an interesting note. I'll leave that as an interesting note. That, yes, Tessa Blanchard did win the Knockouts title this week, but she did not bring the Knockouts title with her. And also, interesting note as well, that Kenny Omega did not have the IWGP Heavyweight title with him as well at this time. He has not lost it, but he did not bring it with him on this particular show. Impact is copying WWE. I wouldn't be too shocked, I guess. I wouldn't be too shocked on that side. They've done that in the past, but who knows? Like I said, I haven't really watched Impact in a while. I should. I've been hearing decent things about it. But like I said, this match here, overall, really, really good. Great fatal four-way between all four of them. Chelsea Green at one point hits a Canadian Destroyer on Tessa Blanchard, which gets broken up by both Madison Rayne and Britt Baker, which does actually lead to the finish of the match, which was Tessa Blanchard hitting a hammerlock DDT on Chelsea Green to pick up the victory, as both Madison Rayne and Britt Baker again try to make the save at the last second, but were unable to do so. Again, just really good fatal four-way. All four of them did a great job in this match. All in, as a whole, I would say you should really go out and watch on this one. I thought it was just great. From beginning to end, to every degree. Like I said, I only had like small little nitpicks on it, but like I said, to anybody who said that this show was bad, they're wrong, or didn't watch. I don't know. I don't know on either side of those. But yeah, this was a great match. And up next, ooh, this was crazy. Like, this match was insane. And I don't mean that in the terms of the moves that they were pulling off, but it was in the story that they were telling. It was Nick Aldis versus Cody for the NWA Heavyweight title. Yes, that title still does exist, and this is probably the most prominent it has been in 20 years. If not longer. If not longer on that one. They've been telling the story of Cody wanting to win the NWA title. It was the title that his dad had held. It was, you know, they had so much going around with it. Nick Aldis is like the new up-and-coming breed of Billy Corgan's NWA and everything, and he's becoming the traveling champion, just as the original NWA title was. It was a traveling champion going to territory, back in the day, it was territory to territory, defending the title against the best in that territory. And just being that traveling champion is kind of what it is here. It's going from independent to independent to independent to other independents and being the traveling champion again. And you had this great, like, they gave it the full treatment. You know, Cody walking out, he has his entourage around him, he has Tommy Dreamer, he has DDP around with him to go along with everything. And Nick Aldis walking out, he had his entourage. You said, oh, Sean Daivari, he had Jeff Jarrett with him. He had what was it, Tim Storm, who was the last NWA champion before Nick Aldis was. For Nick Aldis, for people who haven't really watched, he was known as Magnus as well back on Impact Wrestling. He did some decent stuff over there as well. I just thought this match was great. This was great, classic storytelling. Storytelling at its best. It just, that's what it was. Like, early on in the match, you had Nick Aldis catching Cody with a big forearm to the head as he was going to do a double axe handle to the outside, which causes Earl Hebner, which, by the way, I threw it out there that I saw Earl Hebner being the referee of this match. I'm like instantaneously thinking they made a pretty big deal of him refereeing the match as well. That's like, are we going to get some kind of screw job or anything like that out of this? No, we didn't get that. But he throws up the X when Cody seems to be down. And Cody was down for a good chunk of time as well during this. So this causes DDP to come out and check on him. And he's saying, it's like, I don't think he can go anymore. It's like, it looked like Earl was going to call for the bell, but DDP kind of stops him from doing so. This causes Sean Daivari to come back down because the entourage had left. Both entourages had left after the introductions. The only other person who stayed at ringside was Brandy Rhodes for that one, and so Sean Daivari comes out there, and he went to go like check on Nick Aldis, but before he does so, he shoves DDP. And you know what's going to happen if you shove DDP. And you could tell from the crowd as well. It's like, oh, somebody's eating a diamond cutter. And and then he gets in the ring and gives the diamond cutter to Sean Daivari. And that was pretty much that for them. And then when Cody comes back up, he's bleeding. So we got blood. Kind of like with the old NWA style matches as well. Like, the face would bleed and the crowd was firmly behind Cody. But then again, when you walk out there with a dog as well, anybody's going to cheer you, because he had his dog Pharaoh to go along with it, which also got a huge pop. And props to the dog for not freaking out at all on the stage as well. But overall, just like great back and forth throughout this whole match. Great storytelling. You had Nick Aldis kicking out of the crossroads in this match. Nick Aldis had Cody beaten down and looked like he was going to go for his top rope elbow which is his finish. And Brandy Rhodes is checking on Cody in the ring. And as Nick Aldis decides to jump, she jumps on top of Cody to protect him, and she eats the elbow, which eventually leads to the finish, which was kind of an old school go of it with a roll-up. So Nick Aldis goes for a schoolboy, but Cody Rhodes rolls him up and picks up the victory and wins the NWA title. And the place went nuts. Like, this wasn't like the most flashy of matches or anything like that. It was just a story being told in the ring, and it was great. And when Cody picked up the victory, the crowd was behind him right from the get-go. And when he picked up the victory, place went nuts. Of course, the celebration afterwards. Great match. Like, one of the better matches of the night. This was absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed this match a lot. And then they followed this up with another great match, by the way, with it being Joey Janela versus Hangman Page. And this was an interesting story. So they played it off as originally it was going to be Joey Ryan versus Hangman Page, but they had been doing this thing on Being the Elite that Joey Ryan had been killed. So he had been killed, and people were trying to figure out who it was, and then at the All-In press conference, Hangman Page admits to it. And Joey Janela was the replacement for this one, and it was announced for a street fight, and this was great. You had, what was it, Pepperland Floyd, or Ford, in this match. She did some really good stuff in there. It was a Chicago street fight. A buddy of mine he saw a barrel style thing there, and a Cracker Barrel was one of the sponsors of All In. It's like, I think he may mention it was, it's like that, we better get like literally a Cracker Barrel in this match. And lo and behold, you ask and you shall receive, because they used a Cracker Barrel in this match, and it was great. It was some good stuff. They had some really good inventive spots in the terms of this being a street fight and everything on that one. The finish was, I forget exactly what Hangman Page calls the move, because I'm still getting used to Hangman Page a little bit in this one. But he used his inverted pile driver maneuver off the ladder through a table to Joey Janela to pick up the victory, and just in an overall great street fight on this one. I thought this was just great with what they did. Afterwards, the lights go out, and they cut to a picture of the whole dead Joey Ryan thing. And if you know what Joey Ryan is, he does the whole thing where he does the dick flip, all that kind of jazz, all that kind of jazz. Like, I'm not the biggest Joey Ryan fan, but this was actually kind of funny with what they did here. So he rises. Basically, he rises from the dead, and they did like Undertaker style druid stuff, but with people literally in penis outfits. That's right, I said that. That's what they did. It was actually kind of funny. I died of laughter a little bit on that one. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Joey Ryan fan, but they play this off really well. And I know he has his fan base, and he definitely does very well for himself on that side. He does the dick flip to Hangman Page to finish off the segment, and yeah. I literally when I originally saw it, it's like I put on there, it's like, words really can't describe what just happened. And that's pretty much it. I tried, but words really could not describe what just happened there. It was funny, it was silly. And if you really take a look at it, All In had something for everybody. For people who like those style things, that was there. For people who loved the the pageantry of like the NWA title and what they did with everything on that and classic storytelling, it was there. And like you had high flying matches throughout as well for the night, and All In just had everything. It was like, if you enjoy this portion of professional wrestling, you had that at All In. But, I mean, obviously there were certain things that I might not necessarily care about, but other people enjoy about professional wrestling. And it was there. And it was great. It was just overall great. Up next was Flip Gordon going up against Jay Lethal for the ROH World Heavyweight title. Flip Gordon had won this in the Over the Budget Battle Royal that was on the pre-show. Unfortunately, I missed it, but that is what it is. But I just couldn't see it, or I didn't have time to see the pre-show on that one, unfortunately. This was really good. This was a really good match. Very enjoyable. This whole thing between, like right before the match, you had Jay Lethal backstage, and you just have an arm on the camera, hand him a pair of Macho Man sunglasses, and then I guess as if it was a switch for him, hits him on the shoulder, and he goes into his old gimmick from Impact Wrestling, Black Machismo, or his Macho Man impersonation. And lo and behold, who comes out with Jay Lethal? Lanny Poffo. Yes, the genius. Macho Man's brother. So you would imagine that was who it was. And you had this little bit right off the beginning where you had because Brandy Rhodes came out with Flip Gordon as well to go along with it. And so you have Macho Man playing, or I said Macho Man, but you had Jay Lethal playing the whole Macho Man style thing with Brandy Rhodes, where he was like taking her over to a corner. It's like, you can't be in his corner. Takes her back over to the corner again when she leaves. And I like this whole bit, and she did the they did the bit where he like lifts her on his shoulder and everything. And I loved how Brandy just like, I'm not Elizabeth, and hits him on the shoulder, and he changes back into Jay Lethal, and then they go into normal Jay Lethal bits in the match as well with him and Flip Gordon. Flip Gordon doing basically what his name is. He does a lot of flips on there, and a really enjoyable portion of the match. And then we got another little bit of storytelling, because eventually Lanny Poffo hits Jay Lethal on the shoulder one more time, and he goes back into the Macho Man style gimmick, which then we get a redo of WrestleMania 5, where Flip Gordon literally gets the Hulk out. He does everything from the whole block punch, blocks the punch, gives a punch, blocks the punch, gives a punch, does the U bit that he like you would typically get from that one, and then he does the Irish whip off the ropes, big boot, goes for the leg drop, but that's when Jay Lethal counters and eventually hits the lethal injection to pick up the victory. This was great for everything that they did on this one. I thought this was just really well done on that side. Very enjoyable, very interesting way of telling the story of the matches. And like the changing of Jay Lethal from his Black Machismo character back to Jay Lethal, back to Black Machismo, was really well done on all sides. Just a very enjoyable match. After the match, Bully Ray comes out and starts beating down both Jay Lethal and Flip Gordon, because Flip Gordon apparently had eliminated him last in the Over the Top Rope Battle Royal, or the Over the Budget Battle Royal as they called it. And then you had commentators basically saying, we need a savior for this one. And lo and behold, who was the person to come out and save him? It was Colt Cabana. And Colt Cabana comes out and starts, and they start like turning the tides on Bully Ray. They had a table in the ring, Bully Ray had put a table in the ring, and then they do a variation of the Shield powerbomb, which the crowd actually does the whole bit that Roman would do as part of the Shield for the triple powerbomb, and of course, Bully Ray can't believe what's about to go down. He gets put through the table through the powerbomb, and they all celebrate. And I failed to mention this because I want to mention this back in there. Commentators did a really good job. They did a really good job. And my most impressive portion of the night for them was during the Hangman Page Joey Janela match, where they had set it up, and it was going to be for a spot where they had two tables at the entrance ramp. And they gave a kayfabe reason why the tables were at the entrance ramp, because those tables were used in a buffet earlier in the day that was out there in the ring area before the people got there. That was the reasoning behind it. They gave a kayfabe reason for the tables to be at the entrance ramp when they had no reason to be there to begin with. But they gave you a kayfabe reason. That's announcing at its best right there. You come up with a decent kayfabe reason for it to be there, and it makes at least a little bit of sense to go along with it. Because at buffets, what do you need? You need a table. Okay, there you go. Tables. Well played. Well played commentary, actually, throughout the entire night as well. So this brings us to the last three matches of the night, which was, first, it was going to be Kenny Omega going up against Penta L0M, Pentagon Jr., Pentagon Dark, Pentagon L0 everything. Whatever you want to come up with it, because I think AAA has the rights to Pentagon Jr., so you can't be called that outside of AAA or Lucha Underground or Impact Wrestling. Or, as it is in Lucha Underground, he's Pentagon Dark over there. Pentagon has a lot of different variations to his character, but they're all very violent and very, very good as well. This was a good match as well. This is just really good. The two of them back and forth, seeing what they could do to each other in the match. Like I said, it was interesting that Kenny Omega did not have the IWGP Heavyweight title with him, while the Young Bucks did have their tag team titles with them for both ROH and New Japan as well on that side. But that's kind of like a thing that's just a little weird. Nothing really against the match or anything on that one. The two of them just... they went all out. They did not hold back. The two of them did not hold back. Penta even had gave Kenny Omega like a package pile driver on the apron, which looked like, whoa, you really went there. And both of them just coming up with good ways of going about it. Pentagon did do his arm breaking variation as well, which actually caused Kenny to change the way he did the one-winged angel. Usually he does it through the right side of his arm, but he had to switch it over to his other side because he would always grab for the head with the left arm, but he couldn't do that. He couldn't do that anymore because Penta had done so to his arm earlier in the match to eventually hit the one-winged angel and pick up the victory in this match. This was a really good match. Overall, I just enjoyed it. This is one of those shows that I would say you would just like go ahead and watch the whole thing. It is a 4-hour show, but go ahead and watch the whole thing on this one. I thought it was great. After the match, the lights go out once again. So we had this happen earlier, but it goes out once again. But when they come back up, there's a Pentagon, what seemingly was Pentagon, or at least dressed as Pentagon, was all of a sudden standing back up. He had been down pretty much the whole time, and he looked refreshed. He also had fewer tattoos and a bit of a larger stomach. But it doesn't matter because it was Chris Jericho. That's right. Chris Jericho attacks Kenny Omega and goes after him and does a couple of code breakers to him and reveals himself as the Pentagon that was in that mask and basically said, "See you at the Cruise of Jericho." Yes, so it was kind of a way for him to kind of just to promote his Cruise to Jericho, but it did what it really needed to do, and it was a nice little surprise. Because a lot of people were assuming that Jericho would not show up to All In, but he did. And lo and behold, there he was. To kind of further his storyline with Kenny Omega, I guess they have a match on the Cruise of Jericho. So they wanted to further that along at that time. So good stuff there. Overall, I liked it. Up next was what I thought was pretty much match of the night. This was probably the best match of the night. It was Marty Scurll versus Okada. I cannot say his first name yet. I will continually butcher it, and I don't want to, so I won't. And lo and behold, everyone was kind of expecting full-on what they've been doing with Okada in New Japan recently. But no, he didn't come out with the balloons, everything on that side. It was full-on Rainmaker mode with Okada tonight, and it was full-on traditional Okada, what we have been seeing throughout the time. And the story of this match had basically been like kind of saying like Okada's the bigger guy, he's the bigger star, he's gonna just easily walk through Marty Scurll in this particular match. He's been mocking him on being the elite, saying it's like, yeah, this will be his last match before he goes to 205 Live. Which was a nice way of playing it, and a nice way of trying to say that he was trying to give a dig at it. Though I feel bad that they used the 205 Live thing as the dig. Though not as many people watch that show, so I guess on that side to go along with it. I mean, that's true on that side as well. So that's unfortunate on that one, but it is what it is. But they played off of that. You know, Okada like hitting DDTs. A couple of DDTs around, and kind of just toying with Marty Scurll for a period of time. But Marty Scurll continually fighting back and showing that he is capable of hanging with the heavyweights and everything on that side in this match. And he was doing that. Hits a German suplex, hits a powerbomb in the match. But, you know, everything that he would do, Okada would eventually counter. And the both of them were back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I liked when Okada finally hit the tombstone. He was going to go for the Rainmaker, but he mocked for just a little bit. As he's holding for the Rainmaker with one arm, he goes right in front of Marty Scurll. He goes like 2-0-5, and then Marty Scurll pulls back the finger and does the finger break to Okada. And the place is going nuts throughout this entire match as well, to go along with it. And eventually Marty Scurll hits the crossface chicken wing on Okada, but was unable to make him tap out or pass out, though they made the little tease that that Okada was going to pass out in the match. But eventually he fights out, hits the Rainmaker, and ends out picking up the victory. Just great match. Just a great match. Overall, it was crazy. It was good storytelling in this match, and thoroughly enjoyable. Great overall style of match between the two of them, and this is where things went. And this was probably just a little bit of a timing issue. This is This was the little hiccup towards the end, because you could tell the final match was rushed, because they went right into it. Both Okada and Scurll got out of there really quick, and it went into the main event, which was Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi going up against Bandito, Rey Fenix, the AAA Mega Champion, and Rey Mysterio. And Rey Mysterio was sporting a Wolverine-inspired, well, not inspired, just full-on Wolverine variation of his outfit. And I thought that looked really good as well. This match, you could tell, was very fast-paced. It was a very fast-paced style match, but you felt like it was supposed to be a longer style match as well, to go along with it. But you could kind of tell they were foregoing some selling to get to the next spot a little bit quicker, to save a little bit of time and keep them at the fast pace that they were going with throughout this entire one. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. You could tell they were forced to rush this match to make the time limit that they had, because it was getting very close to the 4 hours that they had for the show. And but what we ended up getting was still really good. Like, they did really good with what the time they ended out having, and it was well played on their part to go along with it. You got everybody doing something in the match, getting something going. Bandito looked great. Rey Fenix, great. Rey Mysterio obviously getting what he everything he could into the match as well, doing really good as well. The Young Bucks getting a good chunk of their portion in there as well. They did do a super kick party. Kota Ibushi, you know, just being Kota Ibushi to go along with it. And it ending with the Young Bucks hitting the Meltzer driver on Bandito to pick up the victory. And like I said, this was one of those bits that you could kind of tell they were rushing a lot of things, because as soon as the match ended, you heard the announcers kind of go and like go over for the goodbye, and then they cut to the final graphic, and boom, they were off the air to go along with it. Overall, like I said, I thought the match was really good for the fact that they had to rush themselves, and what could have been more of a 20-minute match was done pretty much in 11 to 12 minutes to go along with it. I thought it was really good, very fast-paced match, and was a good way of going with the main event as well. Like I said, I thought this was very good for what they had, and for the time that they were given on it as well. Or, well, the time that they were giving as of the time that the match started to go along with it. So, overall, all in, great show. I had the few little hiccups. It's like I had a few little hiccups with Fight TV every now and again, but nothing that was, like, overly bad on that side. The only real down point to the show is that it seemed like the main event got rushed a little bit, but it was still really good. It was still really enjoyable. And like I said, all in, just, it was a great show. It's by far, in the terms of pay-per-views for this year, if you want to consider it a pay-per-view, was probably one of the better pay-per-views this year. It really is. It's definitely up there with some of the New Japan ones, and I would say up there with, and SummerSlam was really good, and like a few of the other WWE pay-per-views this year were really good as well, and very enjoyable. But this is definitely up there, especially even with some of the NXT shows as well for this year. This is going to be up there as one of the better shows of the year. Very enjoyable, and overall, I cannot give this one a bad grade, and really there's no real reason to complain about anything in this show. I thought overall it was a great show. So that's pretty much everything I got. We went for a good period of time this week. Batman, as usual, thank you for joining in on the chat side of everything, on everything on this one. I am going to be filming a weekend preview here very soon, and I am going to get that out to go along with everything, to kind of gauge where everything is going to be going for this week. Like I said, I had a few little hiccups this week on my end where I didn't have internet for a couple of days, but you know, is what it is. And like I said, wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad not necessarily having all variations of the internet accessible for a little period of time. It was kind of nice to get away from being connected for that period of time. So, with that being said, I think that is going to be all for this week. All In was a great show, and honestly, I thought wrestling this week as a whole, for everything that I did watch, was a very good week with everything. So, like I said, with that being said, everybody, I thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. For people, again, as usual, for people who tuned in live, thank you for tuning in live. For people who are going to be watching this a little bit later, thank you for watching. So, like I said, peace out. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.